4 dark patterns in human psychology. You think you're a good person. Moral. Rational. Someone who would help others in need. Someone who judges people fairly. You're wrong. Your brain is running psychological programs that make you crueler, more biased, and more cowardly than you think. You've watched people suffer and done nothing. You've blamed victims for their misfortunes. You've judged others by different standards than you judge yourself. And you've used your good deeds as permission to do harm. These aren't character flaws unique to you. They're universal patterns of human psychology. Dark, disturbing biases that everyone has. Today we're examining 4 psychological patterns that reveal the uglier side of human nature. Not criminals or sociopaths, normal people. You, me, everyone. The bystander effect. The just world hypothesis. The fundamental attribution error. And moral licensing. For proofs that being a good person is harder than you think. Because your own psychology is working against you. Chapter 1. The bystander effect. Why groups watch people die without helping. March 13, 1964. Queens, New York. Kitty Genovese is attacked and stabbed outside her apartment building. The attack lasts over 30 minutes. 38 witnesses hear her screams. Watch from their windows. No one calls police until it's too late. She dies. The story shocked America. How could 38 people witness a murder and do nothing? What kind of monsters live among us? Turns out, the kind that includes you. Because the bystander effect proves that groups don't make people braver, they make people passive. Psychologists John Darley and Bibb Latané studied why people fail to help in emergencies. Their experiments revealed disturbing truths. Experiment 1. Participants hear someone having a seizure in another room. When alone, 85% help immediately. When with others, only 31% help. Experiment 2. Smoke fills the room. Alone, 75% report it quickly. With 2 passive confederates, only 10% report it. The more people present, the less likely any individual is to help. This is the bystander effect. Why? 3 psychological mechanisms. 1. Diffusion of responsibility. When you're alone and see someone in need, responsibility is clear, it's on you. But in a group, responsibility diffuses. Someone else will help. Someone else is better qualified. It's not my job. 2. Social influence, pluralistic ignorance. You look to others to determine if a situation is actually an emergency. Everyone else looks calm, so maybe it's not serious. Everyone is waiting for someone else to react first. So no one reacts. 3. Evaluation apprehension. You're worried about looking foolish. What if it's not actually an emergency and you overreact? What if you help wrong? Better to wait and see than risk embarrassment. The bystander effect is worse in the smartphone era. People film emergencies instead of helping. Not because they're cruel, because they're experiencing diffusion of responsibility plus social influence plus the added factor of content creation. Someone else is probably calling 911. I should document this. Cases where dozens of people film assaults, accidents, or medical emergencies while no one intervenes. The camera creates psychological distance. You're an observer, a documenter, not a participant. The bystander effect proves you're not as heroic as you think. Your moral courage depends heavily on context. Alone, you're likely to help. In a crowd, you're likely to watch. And you'll rationalize it afterward. I thought someone else would help. I wasn't sure what was happening. I didn't want to interfere. The bystander effect shows that being a good person isn't about intentions, it's about overriding psychological programs that make inaction feel justified. Chapter 2. The Just World Hypothesis. Why we blame victims to feel safe. Someone tells you they were assaulted. Your first instinct might be, what were they wearing? Why were they alone? What did they do to provoke it? Someone loses their job. You think, they must have done something wrong. Companies don't fire good employees. Someone gets cancer. You wonder, Did they smoke? Eat poorly? Bring it on themselves. You're engaging in victim blaming. Not because you're cruel, but because your brain desperately needs to believe the world is fair. This is the just world hypothesis. The cognitive bias that makes us believe people get what they deserve. Psychologist Melvin Lerner discovered this bias in the 1960s. His experiments revealed that people need to believe in a just world, where good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. Experiment. Participants watch a person receive painful electric shocks. Some participants are told the person volunteered and will be compensated. Others are told the person was randomly selected and will suffer for no reward. Those who believed the victim was suffering unfairly didn't sympathize more. They derogated the victim, rated them as less likable, less intelligent, more deserving of suffering. When we can't help a victim, we blame them instead. Because if they deserved it, the world is still fair. If they didn't deserve it, the world is random and we could be next. Your brain would rather blame the victim than accept that bad things happen to good people for no reason. The just world hypothesis appears everywhere. Rape victims. What were they wearing? Why were they drinking? Why did they go there alone? Implies the victim made choices that caused their assault, because if it was random, any woman could be attacked. Poverty. They're poor because their lazy made bad choices didn't work hard enough. Implies poverty is earned, because if it's structural or random, anyone could become poor. Illness. They got sick because of their lifestyle. Implies illness is preventable and deserved, because if it's genetic or random, anyone could get sick. Unemployment. They got fired for a reason. Implies job loss reflects personal failure, because if companies fire good employees arbitrarily, anyone could lose their job. In every case, victim blaming serves the same psychological function, maintaining the belief that the world is predictable and controllable. If you make the right choices, you'll be safe. But the world isn't fair. Bad things happen to good people. Randomness is real. Safety is partly illusion. Why does your brain do this? Because accepting a random, unjust world is terrifying. If bad things happen randomly, you're not safe. No amount of good behavior protects you. You could be assaulted, impoverished, diseased despite doing everything right. That's unbearable anxiety. So your brain rejects it. Creates a narrative where suffering is earned, where victims made mistakes, where you can protect yourself through good choices. The just world hypothesis reveals that empathy isn't automatic. Often, our first instinct is to blame victims, to protect ourselves from the anxiety of living in an unfair world. Being a good person requires overriding this instinct. Choosing empathy despite the psychological comfort of blame. Chapter 3. Fundamental Attribution Error. Why you judge yourself and others differently. You're late for work. You think, traffic was terrible. My alarm didn't go off. I had a rough morning. Your coworker is late. You think, they're irresponsible. Always late. Don't respect other people's time. Same behavior. Completely different explanations. You attribute your lateness to circumstances. You attribute their lateness to character. This is the fundamental attribution error. And it makes you a hypocrite without realizing it. The fundamental attribution error is the tendency to 1. Explain other people's behavior through internal factors. 2. Explain your own behavior through external factors. When you fail, I was stressed. I didn't have enough time. The task was unclear. When others fail, they're incompetent. They didn't try hard enough. They're not good at this. When you succeed, I worked hard. I'm talented. I earned it. When others succeed, they got lucky. They had help. It was an easy task. This asymmetry makes you judge others more harshly than yourself. And you don't even notice you're doing it. Psychologists Edward Jones and Victor Harris demonstrated this in 1967. Participants read essays either supporting or opposing Fidel Castro. Some were told the writer chose their position. Others were told the writer was assigned their position randomly. Even when told the position was assigned, participants still assumed the essay reflected the writer's true beliefs. If someone wrote a pro-Castro essay because they were forced to, readers still thought they were pro-Castro. We assume behavior reveals character, even when we know circumstances forced that behavior. Real-world application. Traffic incident. Someone cuts you off. You think asshole driver, reckless person. But you cut people off sometimes. When you do, you think I'm in a hurry, didn't see them, the road layout is confusing. Workplace. Colleague misses a deadline. You think, unreliable, poor work ethic. When you miss deadlines, you think, too many competing priorities, unclear requirements, needed more support. Relationships. Partner snaps at you. You think they're irritable, don't respect me. When you snap, you think I had a bad day, I'm stressed, they provoked me. Why do we make this error? 1. Cognitive ease. Attributing behavior to personality is simpler than considering complex situational factors. It's a mental shortcut. 2. Perspective differences. You have access to your own thoughts, stress levels, and constraints. You don't have access to others. So you see their behavior but not their situation. 3. Agency illusion. We experience ourselves as choosing our actions in response to circumstances. We observe others' actions without seeing the circumstances that constrain them. The fundamental attribution error makes you less forgiving of others than yourself. It damages relationships, creates resentment, and prevents empathy. Being a good person means catching yourself making this error. Asking, if I behaved this way, what would I blame? Probably circumstances. So maybe they're responding to circumstances I can't see. Chapter 4. Moral licensing. Why doing good makes you feel entitled to do bad. Narrator. You donated to charity this month. Now you feel licensed to be a little selfish. You recycle today, so you can waste water later. You were patient with your kids this morning, so you can snap at your partner tonight. You've earned it, right? You did something good. You've built up moral credit. You can spend it on being worse. This is moral licensing. And it makes your good deeds permission slips for bad behavior. Studies show that people who establish their moral credentials feel liberated to act less morally afterward. Experiment 1. Participants who were given the opportunity to disagree with sexist statements were later more likely to make hiring decisions that favored men. Establishing non-sexist credentials licensed subtle sexism. Experiment 2. People who bought green products were more likely to cheat and steal in subsequent tasks than those who bought conventional products. Moral behavior in one domain licensed immoral behavior in another. Experiment 3. Shoppers who brought reusable bags bought more junk food and indulgent items. The virtuous act licensed self-indulgence. Doing good doesn't make you more good. It makes you feel entitled to be bad. Why does this happen? 1. Moral accounting. Your brain keeps a rough ledger of good and bad actions. When the balance tips toward good, you feel you can afford some bad without threatening your self-image as a moral person. Two. Goal satisfaction. After moral action, the goal of being good feels temporarily satisfied. You relax your efforts because you've already achieved the goal for now. 3. Licensing as permission. The good deed serves as evidence that you're not a bad person. So when you do something questionable afterward, you can point to the good deed as proof you're still moral overall. I donated to charity, so I can't be selfish. I recycle, so I can't be environmentally destructive. I'm nice to service workers, so I can't be classist. The good deed becomes a shield against guilt. A license to behave in ways you'd normally condemn. Moral licensing appears everywhere. Corporate, companies with diversity statements feel licensed to maintain discriminatory practices. We said we value diversity, so we don't need to actually change hiring. Political. Politicians who support one progressive policy feel licensed to oppose others. I voted for healthcare reform, so I can oppose climate action. Personal. You were kind to strangers today, so you can be rude to family. You ate healthy yesterday, so you can binge today. You worked hard this week, so you can be lazy all weekend. The good behavior doesn't lead to more good behavior, it leads to permission for bad behavior. Moral licensing reveals that being good is not cumulative. You don't build up goodness. Every moment is a new choice. Past good deeds don't make current bad deeds okay. Being a good person means resisting the feeling that you've earned the right to be worse. Outro. Narrator. 4 dark patterns. For psychological programs that make you worse than you think. You fail to help in groups. You blame victims to feel safe. You judge others by their character but yourself by your circumstances. And you use good deeds as permission to do harm. These aren't flaws in bad people. They're features of human psychology. You have them. I have them. Everyone has them. Being good isn't about not having these biases. It's about recognizing them and choosing better anyway.